Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about actress, comedian, and talk show host Rosie O'Donnell, who's been under fire lately for getting caught going over the campaign donation limit. And not only that, but the reason she got caught was Rosie was trying to hide this by donating under 5 different addresses and 4 different variations of her name. Pretty scandalous. O'Donnell, of course, is a stark Hollywood liberal who's not only been speaking out against conservatives for years, she's also had an ongoing feud with our guy, the president, Donald J. Trump. They have famously traded blows in the public space over the years and, well, it looks like the Trump curse has finally caught up with Rosie. Anyone who rages against Trump goes down hard eventually, apparently. This is much like how the Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn came out against Trump just before her Olympic competitions earlier this year, which of course she ended up losing miserably, and she ended up quitting skiing altogether.
Well, I hope to represent the people of the United States, not the president.
Would you accept an invitation to the White House if you were to win Olympic gold in Pyeongchang?
Absolutely not.
And now has dropped back. Vonn over the top, and she is down heavily.
Before that, it was the NFL, who was getting political and kneeling to protest Trump's comments last fall, and they too suffered for it, having one of the worst seasons for their ratings in NFL history. And now we got Rosie O'Donnell facing the Trump curse, getting exposed for illegally going over the campaign donation limit, and of course, she's been donating to Democrats, the bad guys. And whether or not Rosie will really pay a price for this is still to be determined, but we can't hope for justice here, right? Until then, let's take a look at some more details of the story. Here's an article from the New York Post called Rosie O'Donnell's Campaign Donations to Dems Went Over Legal Limit. Check this out. Rosie O'Donnell made illegally oversized campaign donations to at least 5 Democratic federal candidates, according to a Post analysis of campaign filings. The liberal comedian has regularly broken Federal Election Commission rules, limiting the total any one person can give to an individual candidate to $2,700 per election. The limit applies separately to primaries, runoffs, and general elections. Nothing nefarious, the outspoken star and Donald Trump arch nemesis wrote in an email to the Post. I was not choosing to overdonate. If $2,700 is the cutoff, candidates should refund the money, she wrote. I don't look to see who I could donate most to. I just donate assuming they do not accept what is over the limit. Looks like Rosie is trying to pass the buck here. She's claiming ignorance, but her behavior tells us she knew otherwise. Why else would she be donating with so many different addresses? And using 4 different versions of her name? I've never heard her use anything but Rosie O'Donnell. This all sounds like she's trying to avoid getting caught to me. The article goes on to further detail her sketchy actions here. Filings show O'Donnell gave a combined $5,400 in contributions over the limit to the 5 candidates, and used 5 different New York addresses and 4 variations of her name. O'Donnell donated $2,950 to California Rep. Adam Schiff, a 17-year veteran of the House, for his primary, according to his campaign filings. His campaign didn't return messages seeking comment. Lauren Underwood, an Illinois congressional candidate, reported $4,200 from O'Donnell for her primary. Filings show her campaign didn't return a message. Nobody's answering messages. And Lauren Underwood isn't the evil character from House of Cards named Frank Underwood, and that guy was played by none other than the disgraced Kevin Spacey. Coincidence? I think not. But really, all joking aside, Rosie has done a big House of Cards level fuck up here, but I'm afraid she might just be getting away with it. The reporter goes on to describe how justice is rarely served in these cases. Both donors and candidates are legally liable for contributions over the limit, but it's unlikely O'Donnell or her benefactors will be penalized for breaking FEC rules. Contributions over the limit can be refunded or counted toward a different election, and married donors can attribute the money to a spouse. Donors are rarely fined for excess contributions, and then only if they are hiding the donations from the recipients. Prominent DC campaign finance lawyer Jan Whittold-Barron said, campaigns generally are not penalized for isolated contributions over a limit. However, multiple excessive donations may lead to an investigation. Fines could result in such cases. Sounds like these lefties know how to weasel out of this. Pretty good. Funny because I'm willing to bet if Rosie was a conservative, she would be drawn and quartered for this. In fact, we even have examples of prominent conservatives in entertainment who actually got in trouble for this. An article from Fox News raises a question about this very issue. It's called Dinesh D'Souza got a felony conviction for illegal campaign donations. Will Rosie O'Donnell get the same treatment? Let's check this one out. Conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza, who was convicted of making an illegal campaign contribution in 2014, posed the question on Fox and Friends Monday morning on whether or not O'Donnell would face charges for her alleged crimes. It seems clear from what we know that Rosie broke the law, and she broke the law 5 times. times, D'Souza said. So it's in a sense an egregious violation. He continued, what makes it particularly sneaky on her part is that she used 4 different names and 5 different addresses. So it seems clear that she knew what she was doing, and she was trying to cover her tracks. D'Souza pleaded guilty in 2014 for donating $20,000 to New York politician Wendy Long. He was sentenced to 5 years probation, 8 months in a halfway house, and paid a $30,000 fine. Wow, that's a lot of money. It's also worth noting that D'Souza got these charges right after he released his anti-Obama documentary in 2012 called Obama's America, which was very controversial at the time, especially among Democrats and Obama supporters, of course, who hated the conservative lean to it. That, and it went over the early influences in Obama's life that Dinesh believes influenced his domestic policy decisions as president. Either way, if D'Souza broke the law, which the courts and judges decided he did, then, well, he still deserves to be punished too. Perhaps they were a little harder on punishing him because of his conservative history, but that's a whole discussion for another day. What we need to think about again today is, will Rosie O'Donnell face the same or perhaps worse fate? I mean, D'Souza was only convicted of 1 donation violation. That rhymed. While Rosie has been accused of at least 5, and who knows how many other ones she may have done. So technically, she should be getting a much bigger punishment than D'Souza got, at least 5 times the 8-month punishment he served, which would equal about 40 months in jail or a halfway house or house arrest. Whatever it takes to show this smug bitch Rosie that she's not above the law. Rosie O'Donnell is an old, gross, miserable woman who, quite frankly, deserves whatever she gets here. I know Donald Trump isn't going to be losing any sleep over it, over his arch nemesis going down in flames. Again, if you haven't heard, Trump and Rosie have a long history of going after each other in the news for many years now, over 10 years probably. Now, I don't have enough time to go over all that history, but I do have one clip I found that pretty much encapsulates how Trump feels about Rosie. Take a look at this.
Well, Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. Rosie attacked me personally because I was very happy when her talk show failed. The other thing that failed, and this was a real monster, and everybody was suing her, was her magazine. Her magazine called Rosie was a total disaster. So I loved it. I gloat over it. I think it's wonderful because I like to see bad people fail.
God damn. Tell us how you really feel, Don. Talk about laying it on thick, man. Jesus. It is fun to watch him work, though. Isn't it just great to see our God Emperor pounce on some evil Democrat like this? And this clip is obviously from a while back, too, but I'm pretty sure Trump is saying the same kinds of things in the White House right now, as Rosie sweats it out over her new controversy, impossible criminal convictions.
She's basically a disaster. Well, she called me a snake oil salesman. And, you know, coming from Rosie, that's pretty low because when you look at her and when you see the mind is weak. I don't see it. I don't get it. I never understood. How does she even get on television? I believe Barbara made a terrible mistake putting her on, and I think Barbara's probably paying a big price.
This is referencing Barbara Walters, the journalist and TV producer who started everyone's least favorite left-wing lady talk show, The View, on which Rosie was a host for many years. You might remember a few videos we've done about the show over the last year here on No Bullshit, usually roasting the red-headed idiot Joy Behar, who's effectively taken over the spot as head house mother, which Rosie O'Donnell once had.
If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie. I mean, I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired. We're all a little chubby, but Rosie's just worse than most of us. But it's not the chubbiness. Rosie is a very unattractive person, both inside and out.
You ain't wrong, that's for sure. In fact, Rosie is so ugly on the inside, she's been divorced twice, and her children can't stand being around her for long either. That's why her daughter Chelsea ran away from home, complained about it on the news, saying she was raised mostly by nannies. And now, Chelsea won't even speak to her mother Rosie anymore. Really says a lot about O'Donnell and her bitter, angry, terrible personality.
Rosie's a person that's very lucky to have her girlfriend. And she better be careful or I'll send one of my friends over to pick up her girlfriend. Why would she stay with Rosie if she had another choice?
Well, like I said before too, none of Rosie's gay lesbian girlfriends stay around very long anyway, so Trump was right once again.
I'll probably sue Rosie because she doesn't tell the facts. As an example, I'm worth many billions of dollars. Now, she said I was bankrupt. I never went bankrupt, so probably I'll sue her because it would be fun. I'd like to take some money out of her fat ass pocket.
I love the playfulness of Trump here too. He's not just being mean and nasty. That would be too off-putting and too personal. No, Trump throws a little humor in there, a little spice, makes everything nice. And it makes this whole tirade of his completely hilarious.
I actually think they ought to look at her whole life and see where she's coming from because I think she's got some very deep-seated problems. Perhaps it should be Rosie that goes to rehab. Rosie is a loser.
Well put, Mr. President. Rosie O'Donnell is a loser, lefty, liberal, Democrat cheat who has been busted on 5 violations of going over the legal limit in campaign donations. Sure, she's trying to claim ignorance, and that could still be true, but I highly doubt it. Her using multiple addresses and fake names pretty much confirms that. That and her long history of being mean, nasty, and simply awful. That doesn't help either. But only time will tell. I guess we'll have to wait and see if Rosie actually faces the music on this one. I have my doubts, but here's for hoping, guys. What do you guys think? Should Rosie O'Donnell be punished for her blatant crimes here? Do you believe her when she claims to be ignorant about over-donating? And what do you think about the Trump curse? Could it finally be coming back to bite Rosie's big, old, fat ass? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.